Let me tell you straight, the craziest flight of my life started with a fight over a seat and ended up blowing the lid off a tech industry scandal. I'm not kidding. I still get chills thinking about how a regular morning turned into front-page news, all because some folks couldn't handle seeing an 11-year-old black girl sitting in first class. Yeah, that happened. The second the captain's voice crackled overhead, "This aircraft is returning to the gate. Security will be boarding," the whole cabin tensed up. I remember seeing every single head whip around to stare at Amara Jenkins, clutching her boarding pass for seat 2 and blinking back tears. That seat, her seat, was already claimed by this middle-aged guy, Richard Blackwell, who just glared at the flight attendant and said, "I paid for first class. I'm not giving up my seat to accommodate some disruption." He made disruption sound like a dirty word. You know what I mean? Amara's dad, Marcus, was right there, cool as ever on the outside, but you could see the storm brewing in his eyes. "My daughter's seat was purchased weeks ago. She has the boarding pass," he told the crew, steady, controlled, but you could feel the tension like a wire about to snap. Around them, the whole plane buzzed with whispers, judgment hanging thick as fog. But to really get it, you've got to rewind to how the day began. In the Jenkins house before sunrise, Amara was already up cold sleep, big day ahead. Her room? Sure, it had the usual kid stuffed animals, trophies, books everywhere but the computer set up in the corner. That was all business. Lines of code, growth charts, user data from Dreamscape, the educational gaming platform she built when she was 9. It was in 47 countries by now and worth a cool billion. I mean, let that sink in. Marcus brought her hot chocolate, called her Sparrow, and sat on the bed with her. She was nervous. Today's pitch to a major venture firm could take Dreamscape global, reach even more kids who needed the chance. But the nerves weren't just about the deal. "They expect someone who doesn't look like me," she said, and Marcus didn't argue, just told her, "Today's the day their heads get rewired." That's the kind of thing dads say when they know you're about to walk into a room full of people ready to underestimate you. At the airport, everything was routine. Passports, security, their little call and response about backups, 3 copies of her pitch, because Amara runs her life like a CEO. Marcus booked himself in economy, kept Amara in first class, said it was about teaching her value, not just privilege. But anyone watching would have seen a dad quietly keeping his daughter close while letting her shine. She boards, looking like a little executive in her custom blazer, gets a nod from the gate agent, and finds her seat. That's when Richard Blackwell rolls in, all flustered and entitled, insisting that's his seat. The flight attendant checks the ticket's no mistake. Amara is in the right place. Richard's stuck in Economy Plus and not having it. Then, out of nowhere, this sharp, silver-haired Lady Elizabeth Montgomery steps in, offers her seat to Richard, and with a twinkle in her eye says, "Appearances can be deceiving." I swear, the whole cabin held its breath. Richard took the deal, but not graciously. So, crisis averted? Not even close. Amara is trying to steady her hands. Her dad is watching from behind the curtain, and Elizabeth, the woman who just gave up her seat, sits beside Marcus. They start talking about being a parent, about the way people see what they want to see, race, age, gender, and how hard it is to teach a kid to hold their ground. Meanwhile, in first class, Richard's still stewing. Amara opens her sketchbook, start working on a new feature for Dreamscape haptic feedback for visually impaired kids. Richard glances over and, maybe for the first time, sees what she's doing. He even asks her about it. The wall between them cracks, just a little. Then, turbulence hits bad. People grab their armrests. Suddenly, another woman from economy, Zoe washing Amara's floor, is up to check on her, coaching Amara through her anxiety, right there in front of everyone. The flight attendant asks if Zoe's her mom. "Nope," she says. "I work for her." Cue jaws dropping. Richard does a double to Keith. This 11-year-old has a COO. He tries to Google Amara, but can't get a signal. A few minutes later, the flight attendant comes for Amara, says the captain wants to see her. Marcus follows, tense. In the cockpit, the captain explains, someone called in a security alert saying Amara's traveling under false ID. Marcus is furious. Amara's confused. They piece together the timing right after the seat dispute. It was him, Amara says, meaning Richard. Captain can't say, but rules are rules. The plane is being diverted. Security is waiting. Back in the cabin, the announcement goes out. Everyone is confused, whispers flying. Richard hears that the alert is about Amara, and the color drains from his face. Who would do that? He asks, but Amara's gaze tells him all he needs to know. They land, feds board. Amara and Marcus are questioned, papers checked. Marcus's lawyer, Diane, arrives with Zoe. Turns out, this isn't just about Itzamion's accusing Dreamscape of financial crimes. Not only is Amara being profiled, but now her company's reputation is under attack, right before the biggest deal of her life. Then comes the real twist. Diane pulls up her cords. 3 other minority-owned startups faced the same kind of accusations, right before big funding rounds. All had refused to sell to TechCore, a powerful investment firm. All were temporarily derailed by federal probes, then cleared, but the damage was done. And guess who was on their flight? Elizabeth Montgomery, former TechCore VP, it turns out, resigned the day before and was now on the board of the very company Amara was supposed to pitch. Whistleblower? Double agent? The whole web starts to unravel. Meanwhile, Richard's guilt eats him up. He waits for the Jenkins family at their hotel, admits everything is called to security. The company planned to sabotage competitors like Dreamscape, how he let his own prejudice fuel his actions. He hands over documents that help the feds make the case against TechCore. Elizabeth confirms it, sharing evidence as a whistleblower. The next morning, Amara nails her pitch. SUNTC Ventures gives Dreamscape the green light for global expansion and public support, too, just as TechCore's dirty secrets hit the news. Amara's resilience, her team's integrity, and the courage of unexpected allies turn a moment of bias into a reckoning for the whole industry. 6 months later, at the launch of Dreamscape's Global Access Initiative, Amara stands on stage, older, a little taller, but still the same force of nature. Elizabeth's there. Even Richard, trying to make amends, sits in the crowd. When a young girl asks Amara what to do when people say she's too young to code, Amara smiles and says, "Age is just a number, not a measure of what you can create. Show them what you can do. That's how you change minds." You know, it's wild how something as small as a seat on a plane can open the door to bigger questions: who gets to belong, who gets to lead, and who's brave enough to change the rules. So let's talk about it. Have you ever witnessed bias, big or small, that changed the way you see the world? Do you think real change is possible, or are these systems just too entrenched? Drop your thoughts below, because stories like this don't end when the credits roll. Theory, just the beginning.